Welcome to this very special Equilume webinar where we will be talking about how to give your horse the best chance of success and how light can positively influence their health, their performance and their behavior. We're really looking forward to this and we hope that you will enjoy it too. There will be the chance to ask questions at a little bit of a later date on the 11th of February if you would wish to do so with a live Q&A on social media. But for now, let's talk to our guests. I'll introduce them one by one. I will start by welcoming Dr. Barbara Murphy, who is head of equine science at the University College Dublin. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the link between UCD and Equilume and how you got involved.
Thank you, Nicole. Lovely to be here tonight. So I run the equine science degree at University College Dublin, and my research there relates to chronobiology, which is basically the science of timekeeping in animals. And I was really interested for many, many years in how light impacts our behavior, performance, and particularly reproduction in horses was where I initially started. This research gave me the opportunity to do some really cool experiments that helped me develop a light mask for horses that allows you, give them really good quality lighting right on their head wherever they go. And this led to the development of Equilume, where I am acting now as Chief Scientific Officer in some of the days when I'm not at UCD. So I get to have two very cool jobs related to horses and lighting. So that's me.
Well, we are really looking forward to hearing a little bit about it in more detail in a few minutes. But now I will welcome our second guest, Sam Watson, 5-star event rider, silver medal at the World Equestrian Games in 2018, and 8 major championships, Sam. Now, we all want our horses to be as happy and as healthy as possible, whether it's a leisure horse, a performance horse. And actually, the Equilume performance lighting can be a real key part of that.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and there's there's a real wide range of things that that light can affect really positively. My first experience of it was Dermot Byrne, my business partner. One day about 3-4 years ago, there was a blue light shining onto his face, and we were on a call like this. I was like, "Dear, what are you doing?" And he was like, "It's light." He's like, "Light is everything," And he was going on about circadian rhythm. So it doesn't have to just be high performance horses. I mean, if Dermot Byrne has got this in his life, it really is. It's very much. It's quite intuitive and a very natural thing. And I think, people listening to this, there's loads of different areas that it touches on, just even our mood, and same for the horses, obviously. So the horse's mood is a big thing. So I think it's really going to impact everyone. And there's a little nugget in there, I think, for most people.
Yeah, I hope so. And actually the ways in which it impacts them, we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the show as well. And it makes a real difference. Phillip, I'll come to you next. I mean, your CV, it's incredible. You've been to 6 Olympic Games, 7 World Equestrian Games, that's 13 major championships in total, let alone the gold medals, the individual bronze in Rio. Now, you're always looking for that little way to get ahead of your competitors. And actually, you're onto something here in those marginal gains with the lighting as well, aren't you?
Yes, Nicole. Hi, everyone. Great to be on here. And yeah, I mean, like everybody else, I'm trying to make my horses as healthy and as happy and get a little bit more performance out of them. And so like everybody else, I'd sort of followed it a bit with the breeding, but then I did some reading and thought I'd try the Equilume. I started with the mask actually, and it is phenomenal, the change in the horse's behavior and attitude and just in general enjoying their life and their work. So I'm a big believer.
Well, that is great to hear. And we're going to talk about some of those examples, as I say, a bit later. Finally, Liz Halliday-Sharp, the USCA Leading Rider of the Year 2020, the first female to win the title in over 40 years. You won more internationals than any other rider in 2020, which was a tough year for some people, but you actually came out firing on all cylinders when you could. It must feel pretty good going into an Olympic year in that form.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, my CV is not quite up to scratch with these other 2 boys, but I'm working hard to take care of that. Hopefully this year, find my way to Tokyo. But yeah, it's a real pleasure to be on here. And I actually found out about the Equilume products sort of from Sam and Phillip, really. I knew they were using them, and I was kind of intrigued. And then I was at the Stable View competition this year, and I saw they had a stand there, and I went and spoke to Michael and introduced myself, and I just said I just really want to learn more because, like Phillip and Sam, I'm always interested in new ways to help our horses be happier and be better athletes. And at the end of the day, we're training an animal that has evolved to be a grazing animal that lives outside in natural light. And when the horses are stabled, be it at a competition or at home, we want to be able to keep them feeling like horses and feeling their best and in their natural rhythms. So I was very interested to see if it helped, and I first tried the mask actually on a very interesting horse of mine that I think a lot of, but she's quite tricky, and we sort of instantly saw results, which was very intriguing. So now I've got the lights set up in both our farm in Kentucky and in Florida, and so far so good. We've been intrigued in the results so far.
I'm going to pick your brains actually on that very talented young horse a little bit later on in the show, but for now, I'm actually going to pass the reins, nice pun there, over to Barbara to take control and to actually just give us a little bit more of an insight into how the science works and how light can influence the horse's body and brain. So I'm going to say, Barbara, over to you. And there you go. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And I'm really excited to be amongst Sam, Liz, and Phillip tonight to share with you a little bit about something I've been so passionate about for the last 10, 12 years now, almost, since I did my PhD in Kentucky about 12 years ago. So tonight's talk, I'm just going to give you an intro into the science behind lighting so that you can understand the effect it can have on nearly every aspect of our bodies and that of our horses. So I'd like to start a little bit in kind of David Attenborough style by saying that all life on Earth has been influenced by 4 billion years of changing cycles of light and dark. And this is because our planet turns around on its own axis every 24 hours and turns around the sun every 365 days. And the powerful evolutionary force that is light has given rise to internal timing mechanisms in all organisms. And these mechanisms give us 24-hour rhythms in our physiology and seasonal rhythms in physiology, particularly in horses. So put very simply, one of the founders of the field of chronobiology just said that all biological clocks are adaptations to living on a rotating planet. But what is the function of biological timing and why did they arise? Well, basically, correct timing and being able to be in tune with the environment is critical for survival. So if you can imagine the very first organisms that existed 3.5 to 4.5 billion years ago on Earth, originally, biochemical processes and activities happened randomly in time. There was no order, there was no synchronicity. But the important thing is when cells started to divide and grow, in order for a cell to divide, the DNA needs to open up and expand and become a little bit vulnerable to daylight. And we know that UV light from the sun damages DNA. So the cells that figured out that by doing their growth and replication at nighttime when it was dark were the ones that survived. And if they were dividing by day, the sun's light was killing them off. So this is how, throughout evolution, those organisms that were most in time with their environment were the ones that survived. And as they survived, internal timing mechanisms did too. And the two most important cycles and internal clocks that we're interested in is the circadian rhythm, which is the 24-hour rhythm, created by the rotating axis of the Earth, and the seasonal rhythm or the circa-annual rhythm. So we know that light is needed for vision, and we all need daylight to be able to see, but less people are aware of the very second most important function of light, and that is for rhythm. So to take you through the journey that light has and the effect it has on the body, when light enters the eye, it stimulates receptors at the back of the retina. And the receptors that absorb white light are the rod and the cone cells, and they send this information to a part of the brain that is responsible for processing vision. But there is another set of receptors that were only discovered in the last 20 years, and these absorb blue light from the sun. And they take this information to a part of the brain known as the master clock, or the SCN. And in this master clock, 24-hour rhythms start to emerge. And these rhythms control everything from hormone secretion to our heart rate, our muscle function, our immune response, and body temperature. And how the brain does this is it sends messages throughout the body via hormones, via neural signals, so that every single tissue gets the time of day information, because there is a clock in every cell in our body, and each tissue uses the timing information to control its own function. So what does that mean? It means that genes turn on and off with a 24-hour rhythm in heart tissue, in lung tissue, in our hairs to make them grow, in our muscles to be able to contract at specific times of day. And the really interesting thing is the genes that are active in heart muscle can be very different from the ones that have a 24-hour rhythm in muscle, for example. But we know that about 50% of the genes in the body now have a rhythm somewhere and are using the information from light via the brain to keep in harmony with the environment. And when all of these rhythms work together synchronously, the horse is at its healthiest and has the greatest ability to perform. One of the most important rhythms for our daily health, and it is also a hormone that controls seasonal reproduction and metabolism and growth in horses, is that of melatonin. And melatonin is called the hormone of darkness. Many of us are familiar with the need to possibly take melatonin if we suffer from insomnia or have jet lag, because it's a sleepiness hormone. It's turned on at night in our brain. And if we look at the bottom right here, this was one of the first experiments I did as a PhD student, was looking at melatonin rhythms in horses. And we can see that when the sun is up and the horses are in daylight, melatonin levels are very low, but they rise rapidly each night when darkness falls. And this strong rhythm of rising and falling in melatonin controls the horse's rest and activity behavior, its immune system, its reproductive patterns, its mood. Mood is a huge one, and it's very important in humans. We know that we need to have very low melatonin by day by getting access to good light in order to be in a good mood. And it is incredible how many aspects of our physiology that this one little hormone regulates. So we're often asked, why blue light? Why not green light or orange light? Well, all light is made up of all the colors of the rainbow. So white light has all of the colors from dark blue to infrared. But if you look at the spectrum of light created by the sun, or the natural daylight, you'll see that it's highest in the blue wavelength colors of light. And that's really why the sky is blue on a sunny day. There's more blue from the sun than there is any other color. So that it makes sense then that the receptors in the eye that control our ability to be synchronized with the light and dark cycle would absorb blue light. Now, if you compare that to the common lighting we use in our homes, in our offices, and in our stables, we know that they have a different peak wavelength of light. Incandescent bulbs are the common bulbs that we often use beside our beds at night, in our living rooms, and you'll see that they are highest in the orangey red wavelengths. And compare this again to fluorescent lighting, which is often the most economical lighting that people use in their stables and is commonly used there. But you'll see that it is very low in any biologically effective blue light. While it is perfectly good to be able to see with, it doesn't have a physiological effect on the horse's body. So the message is that all light is not the same in its ability to affect the horse's body clock. When we think about the considerations of lighting for horses, there are three important ones I wanted to discuss. The first one is the duration of daily light. Because horses are seasonal breeders, they're long day breeders. That means that as the days get longer, their body gets ready for reproduction. It also gets ready for migration. It gets ready for more activity as stallions fight off other stallions to protect the mares in the herd outside. As the mares get ready to be able to run with their foals at foot, their muscle development, their ability to put on weight, their metabolism, their ability to produce milk all increases as the days get longer. And equally, as the days get shorter, other important mechanisms start to kick into play. Hair starts to grow heavier to protect from the cold winter nights. So the duration of daylight has an effect on the body, on the horse's physiology. And it's something we've been able to manipulate for years in getting mares to reproduce earlier in the season to meet industry timelines. The second aspect that's important is the quality that the light that the horse receives. If you look at nature's light, it is high in blue, and the more blue enriched light by day, the lower melatonin is, and the more synchronized the body clock is on a daily basis in the animal. And again, a horse outside will have a natural dawn and dusk, and will have darkness or only very low moonlight at night. So darkness at night is so important to let melatonin rise. And the third thing is the consistency of the light-dark cycle. And this is something we often don't think about when we go into our barns and switch lights on and off, as we need to be able to see. But horses outside have a very regular occurring dawn and dusk that only changes by a few minutes a day. Therefore, it's important that we replicate this in horses that are kept inside. And of course, the best lighting is provided outside by nature. So I had a decision to make, because I had worked for a long time on stud farms and seen and worked with a lot of mares that would be kept under lights from early December until well into April in order to ensure they were reproductively cycling. And I wondered, is there any way we can provide this lighting in a more efficient manner to allow these horses to stay outside more if possible? And what I was wondering was, could we just give light to one eye? Most of us during our careers have probably come across one-eyed horses that are completely capable of riding a nice dressage test with just only able to see with one eye. And I was thinking that maybe if there was just light shining on one eye for a couple of hours after dusk every night, it wouldn't bother them too much. They're not going to cause any damage or run into fences. So we investigated, with the help of some engineering students at UCD, how much light, and particularly blue light, we needed to give to one eye or to two eyes to have an effect on this hormone melatonin. And what we found was that when we used 50 lux, which is a very low intensity of light, when you consider that it's 50,000 lux of daylight on a sunny day, when we got to 50 lux, there was no difference in the ability to affect melatonin if we gave it to one eye or two eyes. So that really got me thinking, this might have legs, and we might be able to do something and create a product that people could use in the industry. And of course, like everything with good research, it goes nowhere unless you can publish it in peer-reviewed journals and make sure that it is accepted by your peers as good science. So I just wanted to touch on briefly that we have done, since those initial research studies, we've done countless other studies, initially focusing primarily on reproduction and breeding stock, as that was where the initial interest lay and where there was funding to do research. Using the light mask alone, we've shown that we can advance reproductive activity in mares while they're out at pasture. We can affect gestation lengths in mares, reduce their pregnancy length using light efficiently. We can improve breeding efficiency post-foaling. We can even influence the foal health and size as it develops in utero when the mare receives light. And from a more performance and aesthetic point of view, we can stimulate early coat shedding. We can maintain a summer coat at specific times of the year well into winter. And some of the most recent studies are getting more and more specific into different disease conditions. And we recently shown that we can actually reduce some of the symptoms of Cushing's disease in horses by using light effectively. But they're just the tip of the iceberg, and there's a lot of other studies undergoing. I just wanted to show you a slide that I find very exciting. I never thought that the development of this mask would be taken up on such a global scale, from Australian stock horses for their show coats and muscling down under, to thoroughbreds in New York, Western pleasure horses out in Oklahoma, to National Cutting Horse Hall of Fame champions out in Texas, all of them using it for its benefits to their health, their coat, and sometimes their reproduction too. But now I just want to talk more, emphasizing the performance benefits, because a lot of cases, horses need to be kept in stables for very good reasons. And our elite performance animals often spend up to 23 hours a day in a stable. And again, compare what natural daylight intensities look like and the spectrum of light that the sun provides. And compare that to the often dim light conditions that we have horses in stables. Mostly we use light for our own benefit in stables. We turn it on for a few hours in the morning for morning stables, a few hours in the evening, and then we'll often interrupt them at night and check on them by turning lights on. Each time we do that, we cause melatonin to hit the floor and bottom out and affect their circadian rhythms. So one of the real take-home message that I would like people to understand is the stronger our internal rhythms, the healthier we are. And we know this and becoming more and more aware of it for human health. Circadian disruption and the incorrect use of light is one of the most common causes of diseases in human society, from cancer to diabetes to mental health. Disrupting internal rhythms due to shift work, jet lag, erratic use of lighting at nighttime has a serious impact on our own health. So consider what this would also mean for our horses kept in poorly lit stables. So our job was to try and develop a stable lighting system that supports circadian rhythms for horses. Our aims were to try and mimic the natural qualities of environmental light, giving them blue enriched light by day, having transitions at dawn and dusk so that they're not abruptly woken up by bright light, but it gradually brightens slowly. And then at nighttime to provide darkness or red light at night. And I'll explain why red light is so important. The whole goal is to strengthen the internal rhythms and also provide a means for us to be able to carefully manipulate day length to influence their metabolism, their growth, and also to optimize performance. And we did just this in the development of the Equilume stable light. The red light at night is a very interesting component of this system. Unlike darkness and unlike blue light, so blue light optimally stimulates those receptors in the eye that trigger our circadian clock. But the red light is on the other side of the lighting spectrum and is invisible to those cells. So it means we can use low intensity red light at night without disrupting the melatonin rhythm, without disrupting the internal clock. Of course, we had to test this, and we did this at UCD a couple of years ago, putting horses in a brightly lit barn that went dark at night or that switched to a low intensity red light at night. By having the red light come on, it eliminates white light pollution. The horses are relaxed, they lie down more, you can check your mare, you can check your horses, you can take in a nighttime blood sample, a rectal temperature, you can feed them without disturbing them. And this is a really important component of being able to manage horses well throughout the night. So I said I would just finish off with one experiment that we recently did. I told you that light needs to stimulate receptors in the eye, travel to the brain needs to send a signal throughout the body. But I wanted to see, could our lights actually influence the genes that were turned on and off in the cells throughout the body? And previously, I've taken samples from muscle and from fat tissue and many other tissues, but it's quite invasive. And a very easy way to look at what cells are doing in the periphery of the horse's body is to just simply pluck mane hairs. And you can collect the cells from the end of the mane and see if they have a circadian rhythm. So we set up an experiment where we at a big racing yard here in County Kildare, and we had fluorescent lights in some of the stables over our control group of horses, the common fluorescent light used in most barns. And our treatment horses had our newly developed system with timed blue enriched light by day and red light by night. And we simply evaluated genes that turned on and off in the hairs of these horses at week 0 and then again 20 weeks later. So I don't expect you to look at the names of the genes that we looked at or know what they do, but the ones we selected were genes that were really important for making sure we have a strong circadian rhythm. And in most tissues, these genes would have a very strong rhythmic expression. But you can see that in week 0, most of them are fairly flat. They don't have a very strong rhythm. And similarly, 20 weeks later, in the horses under fluorescent lights, most of the genes over 24 hours don't go up and down too much. But now look at the horses that were in the stables, just had different lighting to their companions. And you can clearly see that there are very strong rhythms emerging. And these were all statistically significant, which we have to do statistical tests for all our scientific studies, but they showed a very strong 24-hour rhythm. The only difference between the way these horses were managed was just the lights that they were seeing through their eyes. I can do all the science in the world, and it really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter because it's what the people working with horses observe. It's the subtle changes that you see and notice that can't always be measured in a scientific study. So I always make note of the feedback we get from our clients, particularly when they start using lights for the first time. The first thing we hear in nearly every establishment where they start using light masks or stable lights is that appetites are improved, that picky eaters are eating up. The next thing we hear is that they seem to be resting more at night because they're easier to muck out. The bedding is less disturbed, especially in horses that tend to be box walkers or irritable. In young horses, we find that they are more alert in the morning. Exercise riders say they're tripping over themselves less. They seem to be much more alert and with it. And the feed guys who go around at night at 4 or 5 in the morning to give racehorses their first bucket of oats will say that 9 out of 10 times if the red light is on, the horses are flat out lying down in their box. And this is something which I think is really interesting. We know that horses are a prey species. They are always vigilant for predators. So it's very often that they switch off and lie down unless they feel completely safe. And if they never know when somebody's going to turn a white light on over them and alert them and wake them up, then it's quite normal that they'll be more reluctant to lie down. So a couple of nights of experiencing the red light come on, we see them lie down and relax a lot more. We hear things like they're more focused in training. It's very hard to measure that. You can only be a very tuned in rider to be able to pick up something like that in your horse. Coats look amazing. We know that the light benefits coat development, and horses that are healthy on the inside show it on the outside. We hear from vets and from horse owners that injuries seem to heal faster. I'm hoping to be able to do studies in this area because we know that cells divide faster when their circadian rhythm is strong. So healing can be faster. Things like ringworm and skin conditions seem to be less apparent under these lighting systems. Another thing we hear a lot is that top line is improved, or horses that are on box rest don't lose their tone, don't lose their muscle tone, and take less time to train back to peak fitness. And something that I'm only looking forward so much to doing a large scale study on is that we hear time and again that horses that suffer from quite severe stereotypic behaviors, the weavers, the box walkers, it's not going to get rid of it, but it seems to significantly reduce inappropriate behavior in horses. And what could possibly contribute to improving all of these things? Well, it has to be something that is strengthening the entire physiology of the animal. And to me, that is the strengthening of the circadian rhythms in the horse's body through the proper use of lighting. So I'm going to stop there. I hope I've got you excited and just a little bit intrigued by what this is all about, and that I hope that I have convinced you that light is one of the most important environmental cues that regulates our horse's health, behavior, and performance. And it's something that we can easily control and manipulate. Thank you very much.
Nicole, you're on mute.
Well, that was awkward, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That was some of my best work right there. Barbara, thank you so much. That was absolutely brilliant. And really, really fascinating to kind of look at the whole process. If you want more information on any of that, go to equilume.com as well. And you can watch this back too, if you would like to do so. Sam, I'm going to come to you first, because some of those improvements that obviously can be shown in horses, whether it's a performance horse or a leisure horse. When you first started using Equilume, what were the bits that really stood out for you after you'd been using the systems for a short period of time?
For me, Nicole, it was energy levels. Imperial Sky's one of my main horses at the moment, and he's just a lethargic type of person, and always has been. He's a bit like me when it comes to exercise, and we worked on all sides of things. There's the nutrition side of it, and so that was the big thing. I thought that lighting could really work. The most powerful tool I will ever work with is the body, is nature. It's how we as humans and how horses, what our body is able to do, as you've seen from some of that presentation. And it's trying to get the most out of our bodies. And as an athlete, I learned pretty early that growth and improvement in performance, and anyone who's gone to the gym is sort of used to this type of formula, which is that stress then recovery is growth. And don't associate that stress as a bad word. It is important. We have to work our horses' bodies. My horses right now, they're doing cantering on a Tuesday, and then Wednesday is always a kind of an easier recovery day, and then they'll have another canter day at the weekend. But that recovery day, I used to have to say to myself, okay, this is the day when the horse is allowed to feel a little bit shuffly and pottery. They're not, they had a hard day yesterday, they're going to have an easy day. And that's always been normal to me. And I would say even more noticeably, I've been working with the Equilume lights now for over a year. This time round, when they're all starting the cantering work again, the top horses are all they're up to 4.5 miles now of consistent cantering. That's about 18 minutes of cantering. And the next day is amazing. Like the difference, the amount of muscle that they're putting on, B, their energy in the work. So Imperial Sky, this time last year, I had Sparks riding him, and we had to give him a lead, to just keep his enthusiasm up. He doesn't need that anymore. I came back in laughing into the yard the other day saying, Sparks, I was telling him to whoa. I was actually telling him to whoa today, saying steady, don't go too fast. So, there's a lot of things that contribute to that, but I think the quality of sleep at night is huge. We're all being told, watch your screen time, and don't, try not to open up those iPhones or those iPads, laptops, any of those things that emit this blue light. Don't try and open them, at least 2-3 hours before you go into bed, because you're going to delay the onset of melatonin. And it is so real, because I've started running now a lot more. I've got to work on my fitness. I know I'm getting old. It's terrible. I've got to treat myself as an athlete now.
Ancient.
If I have had a bad night's sleep, or if I'm just getting a bit sleep deprived, what I can put into those efforts is way less. Firstly, I don't want to get on the treadmill. And secondly, I'm starting to feel tired after 5 minutes. The quality is there. That's affecting my posture. It's affecting how much work I want to do. Like if I had to give someone a piggyback, like my horse have to give me a piggyback, you know, the whole quality of my work suffers, and my enthusiasm to work absolutely suffers as well. And I think for at a leisure level, I keep trying to tell a lot of my students that I teach that don't, you know, some people like to feed their horses, you know, very little or bad quality food, because they're like, oh, I don't want to light him up, you know, I don't have too much horse underneath me. If you deprive your horse of any of these kind of natural stimulants that they need, whether it be feed, whether it be sleep, whether it be light, and light's obviously impacting that sleep, they're going to be grumpy. Like me in the morning after a bad night's sleep, you know, I'm not a pleasant person to work with in any way. So so I think it's important from that point of view. I think the mood has been a massive one, but the energy levels, like definitely for performance, being able to increase the quality of what they're doing, their capacity, like their capacity for me to do that stress side of the work. And then I think it's that recovery phase. I mean, I love the red lights. They're all on now. It's nighttime here. You know, I completely get that, not disturbing the sleep, you know, the quality of it. Many people are measuring their sleep now these days and panicking when they don't have enough REM or whatever it is. But it's always a little disturbance. You know, they know themselves getting woken up in the middle of the night, how much it can affect how you feel the next morning. So for me, energy and workloads, and then the quality of the recovery as well. That stress plus recovery has been a massive thing for me. And Imperial Sky, I hope I'm going around Tokyo in a few months' time saying, "Whoa, Toby, steady, Toby, we're up at markers, steady." You know, he's flying it.
That's really, really interesting to hear. Philip, how about you? Is there anything in addition to that, or have you noticed the same things within your horses there?
Yeah, I mean, similar along those lines. I mean, I think, you know, to produce a horse, or it doesn't matter what level you're at, it's a collaboration. You know, you're not going to produce your horse unless you have a good farrier, or you're not going to produce your horse unless you train him well. You know, and like Sam was saying, feed him well. And there's so much goes into it. And this is just another tool that we have to really get your horse feeling good, being healthy, being able to recover well. You know, and I think, you know, once, you know, getting to know your horse is so important as well, and knowing how they come out every day after they've had a hard work, after they've flattered, you know, after they've had a day off. And, you know, I have seen the results. And to Barbara's point, I mean, it's not always, you can't just say, this happens, you know, like every horse is different. And as you get to know your horse, you see that improvement. And I've certainly definitely seen it. And what I like about it, Nicole, is it's a real natural way, and it's a pure way of getting your horse healthy. It's not like sticking him with a needle, or, you know, giving him some magic additive that he's got to ingest. And this is just nature's way of making your horse feel healthy, and you know, feeling good. And actually, a little bit the opposite of Sam, I've found that the hotter horses are much calmer. And so the couple of mine that were always a bit of a handful to ride on a daily basis have come out and are just a bit more chilled and a bit more easygoing. And so probably if I had to say what helps me the most is with the hotter horses.
That's really interesting. Liz, how about you?
I was just thinking the same as Philip, really. The biggest difference I've seen is in a mare that I've had not that long, Cooley HHS Cal Maria. And I only got her in June, and she's, I suppose the way I'd describe her, she's probably one of the most talented horses I've ever ridden, and also one of the trickiest and the quirkiest.
They're the best ones. The best ones.
Oh, indeed. And I've been determined. I'm like, I'm going to get this girl inside. I'm going to get her figured out. And so I had her at Stable with me when I first met Michael and was learning a little bit more about the Equilume. And I said, I've got this horse that I really feel it might help, because I'd heard that Phillip had good results with some of his hotter horses. And the most interesting thing we found with it, and I remember Michael saying, this isn't normal, this should not happen so quickly. They put the mask on her, and almost instantly she put her entire nose down to the floor and shut her eyes. It was the weirdest thing, and I have no idea why. But and then we started using it regularly, and ultimately now I have to say, well, the mare went on to win the Tryon 2-star, which was really cool because she had the level very long. She's still young. And I would say now I'm at a point with her where I can train the horse. Like, she lets me in and I can put my leg around her and I can ride her. And she's never going to be, you know, a dope. She is who she is, and she's always going to be a spicy character. But now she's in a trainable way, and like she sort of feels more on side, like she wants to do the work, and it's just a happier horse, happier and far more chilled out. And so, I mean, I've definitely been interested to see what results I'll have on the rest of my horses. I mean, I've not been using the product that long, so I'm excited to see how it's ultimately going to keep affecting the horses as we go into the season.
That's really interesting. Barbara, how long would you expect people to be using it before they see a difference? Obviously, Liz said it happened immediately, which is obviously entirely possible. But how long would you expect? Because it isn't just turning on a light and everything is magically better. It does take time, doesn't it? Oh.
It takes approximately 2 weeks for our circadian rhythms to adjust. So, you know, when daylight savings comes in, it takes you about 3 mornings to get that 1 hour change and to kind of for your body clock to adjust. Well, it's a little bit like that, but every tissue gets the signal from the brain in a different time frame. And that's why I think, you know, when the sun comes out on a very dull day, we kind of put our head to the sun and close our eyes and go, oh, that's nice. That's kind of like what maybe the sensation for that horse that Liz was discussing, or, you know, some people go for a sunbed in the middle of winter and feel good. But it's different times for everything. We noticed in a lot of cases that appetite and rest were improved almost immediately, that red light. And it's really interesting because there's a recent study out in human athletes that shows that if you give yourself an hour under red lights before you go to bed, you sleep better and your performance is improved the next day. So the red light, not the laser light up against the skin, which also has healing properties, but just low intensity red light seems to have a really strong impact. And I won't go into my usual joke explaining why red light districts are called red light districts. What's the number one way of protecting your employees from drunken people late at night? You change the environment to bring the mood down and to relax. So they knew what they were doing.
There was method. Sam, just talk us through the setup at Ballybolger and what you use and when you use it of the Equilume products.
Yeah, so so we have a couple of, we're doing everything here in that we've we're breeding right through to then top level performance as well. So at the moment the brood mares, because we've got a couple of mares due early in March. So early 2 months before that, the brood mares we've some will stable at nighttime and go out during the day. And then if they're going out, if they're getting a full day out, and they can have the mask on during the day as well, because obviously it's getting pretty gloomy. You're just, it's the quality, because they're getting our days started, like they're on a long day now, getting ready to have their foals in a couple of months' time. But the quality of light in Ireland when we're turning them out is way lower than what it is in their stable. So again, you're trying not to let them sort of have to go up and down and stuff like that. So that's where it's really useful to have the stables and the stable lights, which are all on a program. I mean, that makes my life so easy. Like on one side of the yard, we've got the brood mares who are on long days. So looking out now, their lights are still on. My competition horses, they had a 2-month winter, So they still get their downtime winter. They get that red light as well during during nighttime as well. So I still think that, I love that from their sleep quality. And then they're just getting they're on like what we call a circannual program. There's no need for them to come up too early. Last year we were going to Portugal, so we started to bring springtime forward a little bit so that they'd actually be in peak condition by the end of Feb. Not doing that this year. So their day start, I think it was around, I'm not up early enough, Sparks is up early enough, it was around 5:30. But again, that's long. Talk about marginal gains. The amount, we're not in Florida like Liz over there, the amount of hours in a day in Ireland that they're getting really good quality light is, I would say they're getting twice the quality light hours even at this time of the year. As another horse is. And there's no need, I don't think, if anyone's sort of concerned about, are these horses getting enough sleep? It's absolutely, and they have that annual, like I said, I think it's important that they had their winter time as well when their workload was really low. And we've got the red lights for the quality of sleep, and then their daylight is just is improved as well from those earlier mornings, and it's stretching out. Now the days are getting longer, lights are staying on longer as well. That is the beauty of the stable lights, is it's that length of time is all managed for you. We just set the program and it's all being
does it. And I suppose then the routine is key because it happens same time every day, just automatically. How long do horses actually need to sleep for, Barbara?
They only actually sleep roughly for 2.5 hours in every 24.
Crikey.
So they can rest quite a lot, and but they can't actually go into REM sleep unless they're lying flat down.
Okay.
So when you're traveling horses, that's when they get quite tired because they cannot actually enter REM sleep. But yeah, the larger the animal, the less they sleep, surprisingly. And as they evolve as a prey animal constantly vigilant, it would make sense that they would need less sleep. And they have some great physiological mechanisms that allow them to rest while they're standing. So,
an interesting one for you, Barbara. I'm going to because this is much more recent. This is literally in the last month. We had a horse who was actually a racehorse, really bad traveler. So even if he was just going like 20 minutes down the road, he'd already be in a sweat and, just panicking. But very difficult to load as a result of it. Obviously found the whole thing quite stressful. Sparks' idea to get the mask on him while he's traveling, which he should do. He's not in with my competition horses. So it was like, oh, go grab a mask. Let's get him onto it. And, first day loading him with it, he was the same. Second day loading, having had the mask on, he just walked straight in. And I thought a lot of that is just it's like a constant, isn't it, for you? Because when you got to imagine some horses are just so insecure and kind of het up about things. That flight instinct is so easy to trigger off. And I suppose if you're going, by yourself as a horse into this trailer that is moving and all the rest, some horses don't mind at all. But if you do, I just thought, having that constant of the mask there and keeping that light the same, they're not going into a kind of gloomy, dark trailer anymore. But that was a real interesting one, and certainly saved us a lot of time when it came to loading anyway.
That is something that we would never have looked for in any sort of research. So that's really interesting. Yeah, horses haven't a very good ability to adapt to changing light intensities, to go, as you guys know, on your cross-country course, going from light into dark and vice versa can be challenging in horses. So that kind of makes sense. That's great. Yeah.
Have you noticed any sort of healing benefits, Sam, in any of your horses in terms of recovering from injury? I know you mentioned they recover quickly from harder pieces of work, but has it helped any rehab at all?
You got to be. So I'm a data guy and everything like that. So you got to be. So I'm the world's biggest cynic. When someone goes on, I tried this product and my horse went from jumping 90 centimeters to 2 meters. You're like, oh, okay, I've heard it all before. You got to be so careful. Why I love Equilume is that firstly, it makes sense. To me, it really resonates with me. But it's scientifically backed, like, proper studies. It's, Barbara's in a university, she's a doctor, and not a medical doctor, and intelligent, they're all intelligent, don't slag doctors. Proper doctor. So, but yes, the answer is that, we've had a horse who had time off, and we wanted to, when you get a soft tissue injury, there can be different veterinary treatments you can do to try and stimulate the healing. And again, emphasis on, the body has learned to heal itself. A lot of what vets are doing is just trying to stimulate that. Like a lot of what we're doing with hot and cold therapy is actually just trying to get more blood flow to the point. You're just trying to tell the body, come here and work here faster. Like, it is all about the body is so powerful. But we didn't have any of those options. We were kind of looking at this, and it was like, oh, well, we can't do this because it's just the way the type of injury was and where it was. There was no kind of extra that we could do to help it. So it was just, unfortunately, that old thing that unfortunately we've all heard too many times is time and rest. But rescanning, and then the question, which was kind of by fluke, was, do we take, this is one of our top boards, do we take him out of one of the stables and promote one of the youngsters into his box, or do we leave him in? We were like, no, he's too special, we'll leave him in there. And we're now getting stable lights into as many stables as we can, so we don't have to make those tough choices anymore. And then we're scanning him after 6 weeks. It was, the vet is just saying, like, what? He had to kind of scratch his head in that. He was pretty sure. He was like, we didn't give this horse anything. Why is this picture improving this quickly? So that's really positive. I think it does make sense. Like that's why I wouldn't be afraid to talk about that publicly. And of course, then you want to try and put the research behind that. It's very hard to have control group because all the injuries are different. There's going to be variance around recovery times. Anyway, we could have just got lucky. We could have had an outlier recovery, but when it's that much of an outlier, when speeds are improving that much that your vet is going, this really shouldn't be happening, and you have a tool there that makes sense, that goes, well, this horse is, it's quality of recovery, it's quality of rest, and then quality of the horse being properly stimulated and switched on during the day. So you have this body working at optimum power when you need it to. And then, like anything, you can't work it up at full power all the time. It needs to have proper downtime, and the quality of the downtime is really good. So it's just the quality, and it's back to my stress plus recovery equals growth.
It's really interesting you say that, Sam, because we've heard that more than once now from vets who say, I can't stand behind this because it's only one horse, and the scan should not look like this so many weeks later. And we're trying to build up and put the word out, looking for vets that do work with a lot of the same similar soft tissue injuries so that we can show this. But they're seeing this in hospitals where they're starting to put in circadian lighting over patients post-surgery. And because I'm lucky enough to get to go to a lot of chronobiology conferences, the human effects on recovery times post-surgery are almost halved when lighting is correct. I mean, we don't hear enough about it, I don't think, because there's no drugs involved. Providing the right lighting and letting lights in ICUs go red at night is considered a safety problem for the people working the wards. But there's no drugs. And I mean, when you think of neonatal wards and ICUs and nursing homes where they're doing these studies and putting these lights in, healing and recovery is so much faster. And again, it's amazing, but it makes sense when you know how powerful and where the light signal goes throughout the body to every single cell that has this rhythm. So yeah, I'm excited to hear that. I didn't know that. That's great.
It is quite incredible, the whole different effects that it has. Can I just ask you all now, I'm going to put you on the spot with a couple of questions, because heading into an Olympic year, Phillip, obviously it would be, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything is going to go to plan, your 7th Olympic Games. Heading out to Tokyo, conditions are going to be fairly tough, we're expecting out there. How are you expecting Equilume to help your horses in their preparation for a championship like that?
Well, I think it's, everything we've talked about, just having a healthy, happy horse that recovers well after big stress, and just getting that horse into that same rhythm, the same program every day. And, it's all very simple stuff, but I think that's something that does help my horses, and I can't imagine that's not going to help everybody else as well. It doesn't matter where you're at on the competition level, and what you do with your horse.
A happy horse and a healthy horse is going to perform better anyway, and that is what we all want. Liz, how about you? Because obviously you've seen some remarkable results with the horse that you first tried it with. I know it's fairly early days in your Equilume journey, but what are you hoping that you'll be able to take forward going into the summer and Olympic Games?
Well, I'm on the same page as Phillip and also Sam, I'm sure, here, and that, we want our horses to still be horses. And although they are athletes, they still need to feel their best and feel at their happiest. And a little bit like I said before, I really, we spend our time trying to get our horses in the field as much as possible. We're in Florida. I mean, some of them live out all the time until they come in to get ridden. And we've always noticed that they're better that way. And so, of course, the horses that are stabled in for a bit, especially when they go to shows, we want to make sure that they still keep that, that happy, healthy way in themselves. And I'm hoping that's going to help bring them stronger and healthier to the show. And I have to say, we used the mask and the lights on De Niro on the run up to Tryon, and he used the mask at Tryon. And I have to say that is the most outstanding that horse has ever felt on the last day. And that may have been a mixture of things. Of course, he's getting fitter. He's done Burley, and they come back a lot stronger after that. And there's a lot of factors that go in. But it's, certainly I think if the horse is getting good rest and feeling at their best, it's only going to make them perform better and feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you noticed anything improving about their coat conditions with you and their skin condition as well?
Yeah, I've got a horse, Cooley Quicksilver, and he's got really difficult skin. I mean, he's allergic to basically everything, we found out. I mean, like everything. So we've got a light installed above him, and I have to say, I'm touching wood right now. He is.
I'll touch some for you.
He's not as itchy. Yes, please. He's a very unique character anyway, but he's always just been a horse that's constantly itching, scratching himself. And now that like I say, the poor guy is allergic to everything, but we thought that surely it can only help. And it was one of the goals I had when I joined Equilume. I thought, gosh, I really hope it helps this horse. And then, like I say, I'm touching it again, but so far he actually does seem a little bit better. So I'm hoping that we're heading the right way, and that this is going to make a really big difference to him too.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely a horse for the US team for the future. Phillip, if somebody is sitting there thinking, do you know what? I haven't yet started my Equilume journey. I've watched this. I've learned more about it. What would you say to them to encourage them to give it a go?
Well, I think you can just, get into it gradually. I think how I got into it was with the mask, and, just using that. There is a bit of a commitment to put the lights into your barn, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to see a huge difference by just getting the use of a mask and putting it on the horse, and then you can compare it to what the horse has been like before and to the other horses that are in this similar environment without the mask. And for me, it sold itself. I mean, it was pretty clear, and to use the pun, night and day.
There you go. I like that. Excellent use of it, Phillip. Excellent use. We've spoken so much. I know there is so much for everybody watching this to digest. So go and take a look at the website, equilume.com. Go and ask the team any of your questions. I'm sure they would be happy to talk to you about your horses, your problems, anything that you think might be of use, because it really has made a massive difference. We've spoken to each of our Equilume riders and seen their journey. it is going to be something that we see more of in the future. And I know all of you are really looking forward to sort of following your horse's progress as it becomes more of a part and the lights are installed in more barns, Liz, which I know you've actually done throughout both of your facilities now. Is that right?
Yeah, we've just started. We've now got 6 lights up, both in Kentucky and in Florida. So obviously, like I'm probably the newest to it. We've only recently gotten them up. Well, we got them into Florida as soon as we got here. So we've had a couple months on that, and then obviously when we get back to Kentucky, I'm really excited to have that in place already, and already choosing who is going to be in which stall, and I hope that one day we can have the lights throughout all of our stalls, because I really think it's the right thing to do. And certainly I've got one horse that's recovering a little bit from a small injury, and he's had to be stabled a lot more, and I feel good that he's got a light in his stall so that he's sort of getting the benefits of that, even though he can't be out in the field. I mean, it's every little thing we can do to make them healthier and better athletes is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Barbara, Philip, Sam, Liz, thank you all so much, because it has been an absolute privilege to listen to you all talk about not only the science behind it, but the actual practical experiences that you've all had in using the Equilume performance lighting to help enhance the health, the performance, and just generally the overall well-being of all of your horses. And hopefully that is going to really shine through in their results as well. We will be doing a Q&A session with all 4 of our guests on the 11th of February on social media. So if you would like the chance to pick their brains, it can be about anything you like, then do get involved for that, because it is a great opportunity to be able to ask any questions that you may have. But as I say, go and visit equilume.com for more information and find out everything there that you need to know. Team, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. Good luck this season. I'm looking forward to that question and answer session, and we hope that you've enjoyed watching. But for now, that's all from us. Thank you.